So I thought I'd try this Instagram TV and talk to you guys about what Sprocket App is and why I'm doing this project. Let's see how it goes. Try this new format. If it works out, I'll do more of these. Pretty much, I started building bikes for friends when I got into cycling, and I couldn't figure out what kind of components went with what other kind of components. I would build a bike for a friend, I'd put it together, I'd get them riding, then I'd get them out on rides with me, but it got really, really hard to actually figure out what kind of parts I needed. So I started thinking, okay, to get more people into cycling, it's actually going to be better to build a database of information on compatibility, right? So I started building this database. I called it Sprocket. I designed the whole icon and brand. I did all this. And then eventually I figured out that what people really wanted was bicycle sales. So they wanted to sell bicycles through me, and they wanted to buy bicycles. Basically what they were doing is they were coming up to me and saying, hey, you were building a bicycle app, and I know you're making a database, so what I want to do is find bikes to buy that are cheap, like under $200 used, and I want to use that as my first bike to get into the lifestyle. So basically what I took from that is there's a barrier to entry, that people that are getting into cycling for the first time, and most of the United States does not cycle right now, they basically want something cheap to try it, to not worry about buying the wrong thing, to not worry about getting it stolen so much. And I realized that that's kind of a fence that if you can get people over this first hump, they're going to get hooked. They're basically going to realize that cycling is awesome, and after that, there's no turning back. So what I started doing is pivoting into this new bike marketplace part of my app. But because I built this database part, I actually had figured out that people need this database resource and this marketplace at the same time. So I am currently running the only bicycle app which has both the database and the marketplace. And the cool thing about that is when you buy and sell bikes through me, if you find your bike in my database, you can make a sale directly through that, and it basically will pull in all the factory specifications for that year, make, model into the sale. So you don't have to know, what derailleur it came on your bike. You don't have to know what specific type of chromoly your frame was made out of. But for all the gearheads that are going to be looking on this bicycle-only marketplace, they'll know. And as we continue to expand our feature offering, we'll be putting in all sorts of new filters and all sorts of new features specific to cyclists. And that is, of course, because the Sprocket app is going to be only for buying and selling bicycles and bicycle parts. We're not going to be trying to sell you a TV. We're not going to be trying to figure out if you want a couch. Only cyclists will be on there, and the only things they'll be looking at is bicycles. So we can do a lot that's very, very specific for people looking to buy and sell bikes in a way that most of these other apps cannot do, simply because they have too much stuff in their app. So let's quickly talk about bike theft, because that's another thing that I get asked a lot. So bikes and cycling in general can be problematic in areas that are very urban. In an urban area, you have a high risk of getting your bike stolen, and many people are actually coming to me not because they're wanting to get into cycling, but because they want to get their next bicycle. So when I'm enabling people to buy and sell bikes much faster and easier than ever before, I'm of course aware that I also will be enabling bike thieves. So what am I going to be doing about this? Well, right now there aren't any features in my marketplace because I'm focusing on just getting it out, getting it working for you guys, and getting it to pay for its operational costs. So that's just the nature of the business. I have to get a marketplace that works, that everybody wants to use, right? That has a lot of really cool bikes that fit anybody's particular needs in their area that they're looking at, within like a 50 to 100 mile radius, right? But when I get into doing anti-theft stuff, that's where it really gets interesting. Because what I can start doing is saying, look, every single bike frame has a serial number, right? Every single bike frame has a unique identifier that the company stamped into it using whatever their method of stamping their frames. And I can actually tell if this frame has been stolen, if it's registered with any specific bicycle theft database, and I check that through the API that database company provides me. So for example, the San Francisco Stolen Bike Database, which we're in San Francisco enjoying Pride right here, the California Stolen Bike Database, BikeIndex, all these other databases, I can easily partner with them, do a quick scan, and then return an all clear. So basically, if you sell through me and you submit your serial number with the frame that you're selling and its year, make, model, I can run a check. If it's clear, I can list that bike higher because I now have more trust that it's not stolen, right? So that's one thing. Another thing is I could potentially integrate with the Strava API. So if you've ever used Strava, on Strava you can basically pick one of the bikes that you own when you bike with it. So when you bike with it, you're saying, today I biked here and here on this bike, tomorrow I biked here and here on this bike, and essentially you start to build this kind of record. So when you go and sell it through me, I could build a feature, for example, that lets you sign into your Strava and show how you've been using this bike over time. Kind of like a used Carfax, right? So then what happens is basically you have a history of how you've been riding on the bike. So someone coming to buy your bike, me as well, you have more confidence this is not a stolen bike because you can see, hey, this guy, he's been riding his bike for multiple months up until he sold it. He's not just some rando that came off the street with a stolen frame and is trying to pawn it off, right? So that's another way. A third way that I'm actually working on is to build an account system. So right now when you buy and sell through Sprocket, it's kind of an anonymous system where you give me your email and I give you a serial number that matches with your bike sale, and you can log in and edit your sale or delete it using that serial number and email pair. What I'm working on today is adding Google accounts to our Android app, which is already out in the Google Play Store. So that will enable me to say, hey, this isn't some random person, this is the actual Google account, this is their profile photo, and that builds more trust that they're a real person, right? Facebook accounts, same exact thing. And as I continue to evolve the application, I will add more and more of these features. All right. What else can I do? Yeah, so we're releasing accounts. We're currently partnering with a bunch of co-ops in the Bay Area, and those are largely non-profit businesses that have large spaces, that have a high throughput of used bicycles that they're getting as donations. They're putting them together, and they need to get them out the door as quickly as possible so they can pre-approve for more bikes. So essentially what I'm offering is to keep 100% of the profit other than the listing fee. So you pay Sprocket $1, you list your bike on there. If it's a $2,000 bike or whatever, and you negotiate that through email with your buyer, then you take that money entirely. And as far as negotiating with these cooperatives and making new partnerships, the app works both for buyers and sellers, large and small. So if you are an individual who has a bike that's up for sale, I don't know, maybe you're looking for a new bike, maybe you got a free bike that your friend gave you, like often happens to me because people know I'm a bike nut, go list it on the Sprocket app. There doesn't need to be a world where we hoard bikes and proprietary bike parts in the hope that we find a bike that we need to use it on. What should be happening is that you have a world where you can save as much space as you need in your house, and at the specific moment that you need to buy that campy 9-speed rear derailleur for that specific bike that won't work without it, you can go on the Sprocket app and you can find across the entire country or the entire planet the specific people that have that derailleur and buy it and get it and then get your bike up and running as quickly as possible, right? So on the Sprocket Android app, you can already buy and sell bikes. I'm working out more partnerships with these companies. As I'm working through that, I'm finding new things to upgrade that make listing bicycles faster, listing more bicycles quickly, much more efficient, and it's just a whole fun time doing this. And by the way, this is my second job. So I have a 9 to 6 job working at a mobile app company, and then I come home and I do this. I do this for you guys because I love you guys, and I do this without involvement of any major investors. So this is entirely self-funded, bootstrapped. I'm really trying not to get rich people and giant corporations involved in this because I believe that will kind of undermine what I'm trying to do for the bicycle community and the bicycle movement. So yeah, you can check out my Patreon. I just started using that. Should be under Sprocket app or Sprocket blog. Check out my Instagram and subscribe on there, and that's at Sprocket blog. I have over 5,000 followers on there. I have probably 7,000 followers across all my social media with Sprocket blog. Check out the Android app. The iOS app is a placeholder, but the Android app is out. Just search Sprocket app on Google Play, and it will come up like with a green icon with a white sprocket in it, and that's how you know that's me. And please leave me a rating. Every little bit helps. If you leave me a good rating, it helps bring more visibility to my application, so more cyclists or people interested in getting into cycling for the first time see it. So that's incredibly important. And we're working on an iOS app. There's a lot of people that have asked for an iPhone app because of how popular Sprocket is getting. So I am going to be hiring a new contractor on Upwork when I get home tonight, and I'm going to be working with them to port some of the currently running features to iOS. Predominantly being able to buy and sell any kind of bike you choose. Later, when we start working on selling bike parts through Sprocket, we'll be porting that to iOS as well. It's just an exciting time. The blog is growing great. The mobile apps are going great. And we're picking up speed. So let folks know. Let's make it happen. Let's power up the Belarusian and make this world a better place than we found. All right.